Let's do this. Hello everyone, Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video. These are questions you all send in and I just answer them topic by topic. As a working shaman and seer, I also offer sessions that are one-on-one kind of private connection with those who are interested. So you're welcome to visit my website if you're interested in that. There's all types of sessions there that I do just basically to help meet you where you have questions and serve in any way that I can use my gifts to serve. I also have teaching. If you guys are into developing your own gifts that are innate within you, I fully believe that everyone has the ability to connect because we are spirit before we are form. It is our native way of communicating and understanding the world. But oftentimes that has been qualmed or not validated throughout our life. And so I have a masterclass that teaches you step by step, beginning with the foundational understanding of your psychic senses and the metaphysical realm, meditation, grounding, all sorts of the basics of understanding how you already are connected in ways that Spirit speaks. And then it develops those gifts and gets very far down. If you do the full masterclass, the advanced level master techniques are extremely precise and technical, but you're still able to do that. I don't want that to scare you off. But it's a wonderful system to truly help you gain an understanding with a well-rounded knowledge of our physical, metaphysical, spiritual, emotional realms and how to navigate that in your fullest capacity with truth and power. So if you're interested, that's always available on my online teaching on my website, which is themodernshaman.net. Okay, so here's the question that came in. This came in a while back and it's been in the folder. And I apologize, I'm just now getting to it because it came through a Facebook Messenger, and a lot of times those get kind of blocked off, or I don't always see them. I don't know why they go into like a separate folder, and then every so often I have to like check those blocked messages. So anyhow, Spirit knows when the timing is right. So your timing is now, and I will answer your question with all my heart. It says, "Hi Rachel, thank you for all the work you put into your videos. I've been watching them for a while now, and they have greatly impacted my life. I have a question about dreams. I've had dreams in the past about war, even before this war began. Not just in this world, but sometimes I have dreams of wars in places I don't recognize, but at the same time feel familiar. There's a lot more to it, but I'll wait for you to respond." Okay, wonderful. So premonitions of war. I will tell you, this is common enough because our human history has had a lot of war, because our history of polarity as an expression of source, expressed in polarity, good versus evil or right versus wrong, expressions of polarity. I'm sure you're familiar with that term, right? Black and white, the sense of segmentation to understand the contrast or to grow in a way by expanding through contrast and contraction, right? Polaric energy. So all that being said, we have had many lifetimes and patterns on this earth and patterns not on this earth as just expressions of source in many planetary realms that has had a polaric experience of war. So this is common enough. And if you are not a newcomer to human experience or to other planetary expressions, to life in this way, then you typically have had experience around war. That's why I say it's common enough. Now, what you're expressing is the sensitivity of non-physical communication. So when we have premonition, I compare it a lot of times, whether it's premonition in dreams or premonition in waking life, like a sense of deja vu or a sense of like, oh, I kind of know what's about or how that's going to go down, or getting a quick flash of almost like imagination of something and then it really happening. No matter what it may be, when we have premonition, I compare it to essentially like a computer program. It's being written out and the code is all written out, but we haven't gotten to that maximum energetic point to hit the enter button or the return button that essentially moves that code into action, right? It moves it into kind of the drive of doing. So what happens is when we are sensitive to non-physical communication, when our psychic senses are active in our experience, and if you listen to the first part of this video, I already said, I believe everyone has this capability because we are spirit and source before we are form. We are foremost soul and spirit. And so that essence is there. But a lot of times that muscle atrophies because we just don't use it. We don't pay attention to our psychic intuitions or our visions or dreams or vibes, whatever you want to call it in today's vernacular. We don't pay attention to it, and oftentimes that muscle, like I said, atrophies. It shrinks or it weakens. And so it takes a little bit of training or validation or practice to strengthen that muscle of picking up on that communication. Premonition is the ability to pick up on the fact that the code's written, that it's out there, and all that can be created is created, right? All that can exist does exist, but we're not always in harmony or resonant frequency with certain things, and so they don't manifest or not part of our experience, even though they exist out there in the ether or in the creation, right, of all source and the universal consciousness. So when we are picking up on that code that exists, that has been written, but hasn't had the energetic precipice or maximum point to hit the return key, we are essentially recognizing, because our past life or our experiences have put us in the accessible range of having that memory, that code accessible within us. It's in our DNA. DNA is code. It's binary code. We've learned how to read it, but not all of it, right? So I'm using code as a comparison here, but essentially we have it in our memory. A lot of times that memory is unconscious or latent, and so it comes up in dreams, because this is where our conscious faculties turn off and our unconscious faculties take a more prominent role, or we give them permission to move into this experience. It's also a different dimensional space. It's not the 3D. And so manifestations and the limitations of the 3D are not put into our other dimensional realms in our dream space. I say other because it's multidimensional. It's not just like 4D or 5D. You can access multiple dimensional states from dreams, meaning time does not exist the way it exists here in the 3-dimensional realm. So therefore manifestations appear the second you think of them, or the second you want to control the dream from a lucid perspective and change the sunset to purple instead of orange. It happens because we're not in the same limitations of our 3D dimensional space. That being said, when you have coded memory in your subconscious within you, it's like playing an instrument, right? It starts to play out. That frequency starts to play out. And there are resonant frequencies that also are in harmony with that experience of war, other lifetimes that you've had an experience of war. And remember, when we're not in the 3D, in this human experience, time does not exist like this. So all of your past lives, future lives, they're all concurrent. There's only the now. And so you have access to those. You see those. And they are familiar because they are you living them. You may not recollect or have memory yet in your human experience of these locations, but that familiarity, I can't say it, is the soul's recollection. This is resonance. This is what truth feels like when we're like, I know this place. I just know it, even though I don't have a sense of linear memory of it, or I don't have a name for it. I just know I've lived here. I know I've been here before. This is how we recognize resonant experience. This is truth. This is what's in harmony. Okay. There's not really a sense of mental attachment to it. It's deeper. It's on a soul heart level. It's beyond cognition. This is where our brain is not quite coming up with it. And yet our soul feels settled in the understanding that's beyond the mind, right? This is the realm of spirit. So when war is coming up in our 3D realm and our human experience on the planet, and we are sensitive to the code or the vibrations, right? The frequencies of that. I can use that expression as well, because there's numerical value to vibration, right? We can calculate the oscillation of a vibration, the peak and the trough, how it goes up and it goes down, right? So that oscillation, we can calculate that, and that gives us the number, and that number is the frequency. Similar to turning a radio dial to a particular number, you're turning it to a specific frequency. The same is true for the vibrations of the energy on our continent. Everything has vibration because everything is energy and it's moving, which has oscillation to it, right? It's not stagnant. And that movement has a numerical value, which is frequency. So all that being said, when you are sensitive, and I will use the term clairsentient. This is one of the recognized psychic senses that's been identified in the parapsychology community. So it's been studied, it's been researched that people can pick up on the oscillations of vibrations on the continent within certain communities, within certain people, within certain locations. And they are reading the frequency. These are clairsentient people. You can be empathic in this way, reading the vibrations of emotional energy, because this is typically the strongest human imprint, is emotion. It gives us the highest peaks and the highest troughs. So it is a huge catalyst for vibration and frequency readings of the vibration. So when war is coming, the areas of turmoil that are experiencing that begin to get frictional, right? And those that are sensitive begin to pick up on the frequency of the friction. They may not consciously understand it in their cognition, but their sensitivity, their emotional radar of that clairsentience is receiving the information, reading the vibration of that frequency. And so all that tells you is that something is coming. And then when you move into a dream space, then you sleep, you go to sleep. Anything that's in harmony with that has a similar pattern, right, starts to align and starts to find balance. Now, this law is literally like a law of science. If you've ever heard of binaural beats, right, this is a practice of where they put one frequency into one ear and they put a discordant frequency in the other ear. So they play maybe 5 hertz and then they play 10 hertz in this ear, where there's a differential of 5, right? 10 minus 5 is 5. And so what they found is your brain is always seeking harmony. We are always seeking harmony. And so the brain waves in our own body create the difference. And this is how we can target our own system to make certain brain waves, to move ourselves into theta, beta, all of these things, because we can essentially always seek harmony and we can create the difference. So what happens is when we are sleeping, we have a sense of brain waves that are picking up on the sensitivity of the frequency of that friction or turmoil that's somewhere on our earth or in our family or anywhere, right? And when we are sleeping, we begin to try to harmonize that. We begin to try to find harmony. This is such a beautiful mechanism and why we are just magnificent beings, okay? I won't get on that tangent, but we are. You guys, it's magnificent. This stuff is just like, oh my gosh, I'm just in awe all the time. So when that's happening, our multi-dimensional aspects of ourselves, our visual memory, our muscular kinesthetic memory pulls up things that are in harmony with that. So if you have lifetimes that have experienced similar turmoil of war, it begins to move through the visual memory of that. We begin to replay it. We begin to emotionally experience it. We begin to harmonize that experience and essentially share in it. This is we are all one. We become sharing of the experience. This is why war can be so detrimental in a way, because we're doing it, we're applying it, it's happening to all of us. And anyone that is resonant will have an awareness of that experience. So I don't want to be a downer at the end of this, because there's power in that awareness. When you become conscious of the fact that you've had this premonition of war or awareness of that, there is a higher wisdom in you that says, I've done this before, been there, done that. Time for change. And this is where evolution happens. This is a causal point in creation that says, I want something more unified. I want something better than what I've experienced before. I've already done that. I've already expressed that part of creation. And so let's create something different. This is an evolutionary point, a causal point, like a node that begins to branch off into new directions of creation. So in a positive way, when we have had many points of expression that has experienced different types of war, being on different sides of war, being the one that lets someone go, the one who loses someone, the one who is shooting, the one who is shot. When we have had many expressions of this, we have played out an expression and are ready for an evolutionary change. And that's truly where I feel like when you are sensitive, you have now awareness, conscious awareness of this, and have the ability to now engage as the creator of something new, to choose in that moment a different evolutionary action that says, I have had this. And you can play with that even in the lucidity of your dreams. You know, what's beautiful is that this is a mind trip. Sorry, I could go on forever, y'all. And I realize I'm almost under 20 minutes for this video, so I try to keep them short, but sometimes I talk too much. Okay, but if you could stay with me and stretch your mind a little bit. What is interesting is that when we connect to the different lifetimes, right? Past lifetimes, future lifetimes, because they're all in the now. When we are connecting in our dream space or in our meditation space, in a space of the multidimensional, we're using our psychic, not 3D realm of communication and expression. This is outside of time, which means we still have actionable free will to change what happens. It hasn't already happened in the past, meaning we can speak, we can engage, we can make choice that literally changed that life. It's like when I am speaking to another aspect of myself or looking at a past life or whatever, I'm not looking at something that's already happened. I am looking at something in the now. We are both in the now. So when I am speaking, I'm trying to give an example. It's like I have spoken to the past, remember, it's all concurrent, version of myself as a shaman that was preparing his tribe for death, basically. There were soldiers coming in. There was an awareness that they had no other option. We had no other option. And in that moment, I was able to speak to him, and he was able to speak to me. And essentially, we were able to use one another's gifts. I was able to say, let me go view what that group is planning, okay? And then I was watching that, and I was a part of it in the present, okay? And we were sharing that present moment, and he began to talk, and I began to talk, and he said, the people around me are listening, and they're wondering why I'm speaking to you. It was happening then. Do you get what I'm saying? It's happening. He was engaging with me and I was engaging with him because it's all in the now. And so you still have creative choice and ability of choice. Even when you are experiencing those lives on other planets, you're engaging in the now. So if you say then, I don't want this war to continue, or I make a change in my evolutionary path that's more one of unity, of understanding the bigger picture, all this, then it's happening in those lives now. Okay, I'm gonna end on that. There's a lot of, but it is so much bigger, okay? If we can lean into that. All right, I'm gonna sign off and bless you all. I will be back here next week for another video. Blessings.